Welcome back to Physical Inventory Training. In this third chapter, we'll be reviewing how to create a new PI, or physical inventory for short. There are four kinds of PIs that you might do, and in particular there is the full and there is the partial. When you do a full, you could be doing it by hand, or you could be using the portable rental scanners, or if you're doing a partial, same thing, you could be doing a partial by hand or using the portable rental scanners. I'll go through and I'll show you briefly each one of those four possible examples. So the first thing we do is go up to Inventory Control and then to Physical Inventory. Let's work on the two full examples first, and then we'll hit the partials. There's some special detail you'll want to be aware of when considering doing a partial PI. So first thing is to do F4 new, and we need to give it a name. So let's call this one Winter 2006, and that it's going to be maybe a full, and I'm just going to put notes of what I was planning on doing, so I will say this is going to use the rental scanners. So I'll do next. So here's where I'm choosing to do a full. And the next step is where I'm going to indicate if I'm going to be doing this by hand or if I'm going to use the rental scanners. Edit by exception. This is an important question. This is what's going to help you distinguish between doing hand counts or doing the portable rental scanners. Edit by exception is an option that can save you time when you're doing manual counts. What Edit by exception will do is when you're creating your PI, it will take whatever is in the inventory count, the inventory column, which is the amount on hand at the moment you've created that PI, and it will copy that value into the count quantity column, meaning you've assumed that those quantities on hand are probably correct, and you only want to have to edit the items that are wrong, the exceptions, the ones that are a discrepancy. So because I'm going to be doing this PI a full with using the portable rental scanners, I don't want to double up on my numbers. I'm going to actually download fresh numbers for each item. So in this case, I'll say no, I don't want to edit by exception. So I'll say next, and that's all there is to this one, so I'll say finish. It'll think for a few moments. It's now going to build basically a large snapshot of my entire inventory. Let me scroll this over a little bit. So here's all my items on hand. There's the name. There's everything that I chose, which is all sections. And there's the inventory quantity, which is the amount on hand at the moment I created this PI. Before I do anything else, sorting, changing quantities, downloading scanners, of course, the very first thing should be to save. Let's go in now and do the second example of doing a full PI but planning on doing it by hand. So I'll go back to list and I'll do another F4 new PI. Now notice I have my open PI here from the first example. Because I have one already going, Anthology is going to bring up a warning message to say, wait a minute, you already have one in progress. Are you really sure you want to create a new one? Because I'm doing a demo, yes. So again, here's my chance to put in the name. So let's call this Winter 2006. And this is, again, a full, but by doing hand counts. You don't have to put that information in the name of yours, but this is just for the demo. I'll say next. So again, here's where I say I'm going to do a full. And now because I'm going to do hand counts, I want to save myself the time and only have to change the items that are exceptions. So in this case, I'll say yes, I want to use edit by exception. I'll do next, and now I'll finish. And so now here's my new PI number 2. There's my name. There's all my sections. Again, you should save right away. And now let me scooch this column over so you can see what effect that had. Here is my item that I had 8 on hand at the moment that I created this PI, and notice that it is already assumed that I have 8 in the count quantity column. Because I'm going to be counting these by hand, maybe I had run a stock check report. I'm going to go through and I'm going to, when my staff comes back with their reports and show me the counts of what they found, all I have to do now is go through and mark the ones that are wrong. Perhaps they didn't find the 9 that I thought I had in this one. Maybe they only found 8. So I can just decrease that count quantity. I'll say enter line. And notice now that shows a discrepancy of -1. But everything else, at least at the moment, shows there's no discrepancies and that my inventory is pretty close to being correct. So as I go through and I start adjusting for the ones that are incorrect, maybe I had more of this one, you'll see that now I'm starting to see discrepancies show up. This is all if I'm going to be doing hand counts. Why don't we now go in and touch on the 2 examples of doing partial PIs, one by doing with rental scanners, the other by doing hand counts. So I'll go in, I'll go back to my list tab, and I still have my other 2 out here, but I'm going to create a 3rd example. And yes, I do want to create a new one, so let's see, let's call this Winter 2006. And this is going to be a partial, maybe it's the children's sections that I'm going to do. And I'm going to be doing this one with the rental scanners. Again, the name is up to you. This is just notes to help us keep clear on exactly what scenario we used when we created each one of these. So I'll say next. And here's where I say that in this case, we're doing a partial. Now, bear in mind that when we do partials, we're going to have to pick the sections that we want to count, and in that, we're only going to be picking up items who have a particular section value in their section 1 field. We do not look at section 2. So I'll do next here, and here is where we start picking those sections that we want to count, either by doing the rental scanners or by doing hand counts. Couple of buttons you should go over. This button right here means copy everything from the available sections group on the left to the selected sections on the right. This one right here means pick a particular section and move it to the right. This one, these 2 actually that are pointing to the left mean pick something from the selected section and bounce it back to the available section so I can remove something if I chose it accidentally. And this one means take everything from selected sections and bounce it back. But in this case, I want babies and toddlers, and let's just pick maybe a couple other titles. Let's see, how about, now let's leave the children's fiction alone. Maybe we want the little books, so we'll say one last section. So here are the 3 sections that I planned on counting, at least maybe on a Monday or whatever day I'm going to do this. Again, these are the items that I want to pick up. They must have one of these 3 values in their section 1. If I have an item whose section 1 value is, humor or something, and grades 1 and 2 is in section 2, I would not be picking up this title. So be very attentive to what items you're picking. This usually means that you need to go through maybe ahead of time and just double check your sections, make sure things are accurately noted. For now, I'll do next. And here's again that edit by exception, and in this case I had said that I was going to do a partial of the children's, but that I was going to use the rental scanners. I don't want to double up on my numbers, so I'll say no to this one. And I'll finish. It's now going to create that PI. There's PI number 3. There's the name. There's 3 particular sections I picked. And now I want to do F10 save. So here are all the items that I've picked, all the items that I plan on counting. And finally, let's do the 4th example of doing a partial PI and intending to do hand counts. So I'll go back to list. We'll do F4 new PI again. Yes, I'm going to create a new one. And let's call this one Winter 2006. And it is a partial for the children's section. And then I'm going to be doing hand counts. So again, this is a partial. Here are the sections that I want. Let's maybe pick some other sections here. Well, let's pick out the older kids. I'll just do those 2. So I'll do next, and again, because I'm going to do this one by hand counts, and I'm reasonably sure that most of my stuff is pretty correct, so I will go ahead and I'll say yes to edit by exception. I only want to have to change those items that were wrong. So I'll say next, finish, and now it's going to build that PI number 4. There's my title, and there's the 2 sections that I picked. Again, don't forget to save right away. And let me scooch this column over. You can see again, there's 2 stories here. This one, we had 9 when we created the PI, and we have assumed that we probably have 9 right now. So as I'm going through and doing my counts and I discover, whoops, I didn't really have 8 of that one. I had only 7. I'll enter my line, same thing as before. I can go in and start marking those accepted items. So there's my discrepancies starting to show up. Now I should pause here. Now that I've shown you those 4 different examples, I wanted to point out a very important topic, an important decision, things to keep in mind when you're considering doing a partial PI. Doing a full PI is actually a little simpler in the setup in that you're just going to count everything. When it comes to a partial, you may be doing one side of the store one weekend and maybe another side of the store on another weekend. It's really up to you, but the thing you want to keep in mind is that within the same window of time, maybe the same week or the same month, you're going to be perhaps counting this a particular group of sections and at different times. You could certainly create a partial PI for each section. So instead of doing 2 here, I could have just said that I'm going to have API number 4 for grades 7 through 9, and PI number 5 was only going to be grades 10 and 12. I can do like I've done here too, where I've done 1 PI but multiple sections. Either way is fine, but you need to understand the concern that you can get yourself into. I wouldn't want to perhaps create a PI on, say, Monday morning that was the children's board book and maybe the children's games. Count those items, maybe only count half of one of those items, or one of those sections. Maybe I don't count all of the children's board books that day for whatever reason, and then I complete my PI. Anything I haven't counted, and depending on if I have used edit by exception or not, in this case I did, but let's go take a look at if I hadn't used edit by exception. Right now, if I were to finalize this partial PI, because there's nothing in total count, I would end up zeroing out the on-hand of those inventory items, which actually can be a good thing if you wanted to zero things out first and then do your counts. Some people have chosen to do that. But the more important concern is if you reuse a section within the same week or 2 or 3 days. Say on Monday I had done my PI where I created it, I picked children's games and children's board books, and then finished that PI Monday night. Maybe Tuesday I come in and I decide, okay, I'm going to count another part of the store, and I pick children's toys and children's board books again. Anything I do in that second PI where I had done children's board books and reused it, that's the important key. When I reuse a section, if I finalize my counts from Tuesday afternoon, I'm going to end up overwriting every single thing in my children's board book section that I had done on Monday. I've seen a couple of stores make mistakes, and they thought they could do 1 PI that had both sections and count only half of it because maybe some things were physically in one area of the store. And then the next day they created a whole new PI and reused that same section to count the other half of the stuff that was on the other side of the store, not understanding that they weren't just adding to the things they'd counted the day before, but in fact they were overwriting completely everything they had counted on the first day. So we really recommend that if you're going to do partial PIs, maybe do 1 PI per section, keep it simple, or if you really must go through and create one big partial PI with several sections, maybe make a list and scratch off that name once you used it on the first one, and do not use it again on the second one unless there's been some kind of mistake that you want to recount for. That's about it as far as the different kinds of PIs and how to create those. That would probably wrap up this chapter. If you're going to be going on, the next chapter, chapter number 4, will probably be about downloading rental scanner batches and reviewing those batches and posting those scanner batches. For those of you who are doing hand counts only, you may want to skip chapter 4. For those of you that are renting the scanners or getting your own scanners, you'll definitely want to watch this next chapter. That should do it for now.